Hi, I'm making this video to showcase my accepted portfolio that I created for Sheridan College's animation program. I'm going to also give some details on my process and tips for people applying in future years. I submitted my portfolio in February 2020 and was accepted into Sheridan's 2024 class. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or message me on my Instagram, which can be found in the description. With all that in mind, here are my pieces. So before I go into more details about my pieces, here are some things you should know about me. I'm 17, directly out of high school, and a local student living in the GTA. I went to the Animation Portfolio Workshop in March 2019, and it was incredibly helpful in not only building my skills, but helping me choose my portfolio pieces. On top of the sessions in that class, I went to extra life drawing sessions 1 to 2 times a week from September to February to catch up on the lack of practice I had with it. APW is expensive, but if you can afford it and it is within your means, I highly recommend taking it. I got an 84% on my rubric, which was the waitlist mark for my year. However, my academic average helped me to get an acceptance almost immediately, despite being on the cutoff. I say this because I often see people dismiss academic performance when applying to art schools, and I just want to clarify that it can save your butt in certain circumstances. Starting off with my life drawing, here are my fast poses first, and then I will show my slower poses after. Most portfolios use nude models, and I did practice those as well. It just happened that a few clothing life drawing sessions I did close to the deadline turned out really well, so I used those instead. The biggest advice I can give is what everyone else says, which is to practice a lot. Not only is life drawing good for learning how to draw the human figure in a more fluid and detailed way, but it also helps improve basic skills like hand-eye coordination and understanding shape language, which can be applied to all parts of your portfolio. The more you practice, the more you will see your mistakes. Next up are my hand drawings. Our year's prompt was to draw a picture of a hand reaching for a doorknob, and then a second picture of it turning the handle. I'd recommend doing a ton of hand studies before attempting the theme, and then once you've practiced that enough, attempting it multiple times in different positions. Your second attempt might be from an easier angle, or maybe you understand the anatomy a bit better than your first try. When approaching the drawing itself, I highly recommend breaking down the hands into simple shapes first, in order to show your understanding of its structure. If you have construction lines, keep them. They're good signifiers to the judges that you're thinking about the 3D form, and not only drawing what you can see. One thing I personally found very useful was to layer my two pictures on top of each other and flip between them like a paper animation, to see how the proportions changed and how the hand moved. It helped a lot with seeing small inconsistencies between them. Another thing I personally found very useful was to ask a friend to do the poses for me. I actually took a photo of it, and it was really helpful in referencing how the hand should look in each pose. I really didn't do too hot on my character rotation. There are many ways to lose a lot of marks in this section, so be very careful. Often people lose marks because the character becomes flat as it's rotated or becomes inconsistent within each shot. Look out for intricate designs. Sometimes it's easier to make inconsistencies when there's so many details on a character that you can't tell what you've drawn and haven't. Sometimes simple is better. Get comfortable with drawing your characters at different angles so you can spot what works in a design and what doesn't work. The easiest way to avoid inconsistency is to start your rotation with basic 3D shapes like spheres, cones, and cubes, and then to do details only once you know each shot is consistent between each other. This was another section where I found traditionally flipping between each drawing, and even doing it with opacity layers on my inked digital copy when I got to it, was very useful in order to spot inconsistencies. I think I lost marks due to some issues with my character's hair, as well as how her limbs kind of get a bit stiff in the later parts of the rotation, though honestly this is mainly speculation. The character design itself could have been stronger, and I honestly just ran out of time on this section, had to finish it on the last day alongside my storyboard. Had I had more time, I would have tried different variations of her outfit to try and find a pattern that felt more suited to her character. Onto the short animation, which I'm personally really proud of. The only general advice that will apply for everyone in this section is that you should definitely study up on the 12 principles of animation. All good animators use these to improve how their animation looks, and Sheridan Profs will be looking for how you use them. For my year, we were given a specific juice box model to animate, with a full model sheet. Because of this, I not only wanted to focus on making my idea creative, but keeping the box on model. I animated it in Adobe Animate, which I found very helpful because the program allowed me to make a lot of slight timing and sizing adjustments without having to completely erase things like one would if they were working traditionally. It was really hard to do the spinning cut box section. It took multiple tries and copies with edits to try and get the physics I wanted from it. Ultimately, animation is a tricky balance between staying on model and using principles like squash and stretch to emphasize the movement, and everyone's animation will have different challenges. My storyboard was the section that lost the most marks, but from what I've seen, most people don't get perfect on this section anyways. Our theme was you can't judge a book by its cover, and we were given the possum character to use. I personally had a fun time with friends naming our possums, but this isn't mandatory at all. Please don't look at my board and think that you have to. I highly recommend drawing the character you're given from different angles before you even start the storyboard, because it'll help you draw them in more interesting shots and more on model in the final copy. Make sure your story makes sense, that your 4 images are cohesive and clear, and that you're varying your shot composition. I recommend checking out Coronai's storyboard section on their portfolio in particular if you haven't seen it. It showcases all good things a storyboard submission should have. I think I could have gotten a better mark had I focused on it a bit more. I only did a few thumbnailed ideas before immediately jumping into the rough draft that would become my final, and spent most of that time trying to redraw the same panel with the possum on model, because I just didn't practice drawing the possum enough. Seriously though, don't be like me, who didn't draw the possum enough and then struggled for like 4 hours to draw the same shot because they didn't know how to draw them on model. The perspective drawings ended up being pretty fun to make. My biggest recommendation when creating them is to have a clear idea of a story in mind when you start, so you know how your character will interact with the background you have created. For example, my interior layout was based on the concept that the girl character in the picture is at her birthday party that sadly no one showed up to, so she's performing for her stuffed animals instead. Since I decided this very early on into my process, I was able to come up with a bunch of objects in the room that would build on this idea, and also have a good idea of what her party room would look like. This also applies to the outdoor layout, but mainly the indoor one, but I would not recommend using rulers. Unless you're using them to check whether your lines are reaching your vanishing points properly, I would recommend not using them at all. Varying your line weight is key to making your picture look lively, so only using rulers can completely destroy the flow your picture has. As for my outdoor layout, my idea was to have the woman in this image set up a relaxing spot far away from the crowded beach where she can watch everything from afar. I used my own personal photos at a beach for ideas, and found reference photos of stuff to fill in the gaps around the main concept. I tried my best to have some overlapping objects too, such as the beach grass in the foreground, to make the picture more interesting, and have it guide the eye back to the character on the towel. My last section was my personal work. I had 2 digital pieces, one of my OC, and one I made for a prize winner on DeviantArt of their character. I also included some studies I did of some reptiles for my sketchbook, an acrylic painting I did for an art assignment at school, and some photographs I took for a tech class a few years ago. Ultimately, I did struggle a little bit with choosing my pictures. You want to show what makes your work special and what you love to create after all. However, since a lot of what I love to create is fan art and I couldn't include it due to Sheridan's guidelines, I struggled to find work that was up to my current standards. Generally speaking, I think most people don't find this section hard. If you like art, you probably have 5 pieces you like sitting around or stuff you can take out of your sketchbook. Now that I'm done going through all my pieces, I'll drop a few tips before I leave. First off, like everyone says, start early. I thought I started early enough, exactly a year beforehand, and I still ended up having to finish 3 pieces on the last day. You never know what you might want or need to redo, or how long you'll get stuck on something, so give yourself enough time to get everything done. Getting stuck in a position where you have to crunch and you don't feel comfortable with the work you're submitting is an awful feeling, so make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Next, read everything very carefully. Missing key instructions can mean losing marks on the portfolio. Also, read the submission guidelines before you have to hand everything in. Sheridan asks you to label your files in a certain way and in a specific file format, so make sure your files are sent in the way they requested them. You're going to need time to format them properly. Take advantage of the people that are around you. Talk to people in your life drawing classes, your high school art classes, teachers, or other people that you know value what you're doing and can give some input. There are Discord servers and Facebook groups out there for portfolio development too. If you know anyone else applying, try working together. It's very good for motivating each other to complete it on time, and it's really nice to bond over the hardships of portfolio hell. It's very likely you'll be better at different things, so you both will be able to help each other grow at the things you're weak at. My friends helped me so much in getting through the process. We laughed, suffered, and drove each other crazy, but it made the experience a lot more bearable. And that's it. Good luck on your future portfolio submissions. If you want to find me on other platforms, I have some links below in the description.